Hey friends, welcome to the Angie Ambrosetti Show, Let Her Out to Play. I'm Angie, your host, a teenage mom turned multi-six-figure earner, married to the same man for nearly 40 years. I'm a homeschooling mom of 7 and totally unqualified, at least on paper, but wildly called by God. Remember, He doesn't call the qualified, He qualifies the called. Here, we are going to talk about it all. Healing from the hard stuff, building a business with heart, raising a big family, walking in faith, and finally breaking free from the lies that said we weren't enough. So if you're ready to stop playing small, shake off the doubt and the shame, and step fully into who you were created to be, girl, you are in the right place. Let's go. Well, today we are going to start talking about how it all began. So it was December of 1985 when I met my hunky husband on a blind date. You see, he was supposed to go out with one of my girlfriends that night, and she had made other arrangements. So she said, "Hey, why don't you go out with my friend? She just moved back from Florida and she's pretty cute." So lo and behold, we went out on a date that night. It was December 28th, 1985, back in Indiana. We went to a movie, we went to his friend's house, and believe it or not, he actually told me he loved me the very first day. Like, I have that effect on people. You know what I'm saying? He said it in Italian. I didn't know what it meant, but you can bet your bottom dollar. I went and looked it up and I was like, what is it with this guy? Like, why is he saying he loves me on the first day? I mean, at the time I was thinking I'm pretty awesome, but nonetheless, most people don't do that. But it's a fact. It happened. He told me that he loved me December 28th, 1985. And then in February of 1986, he broke it off with me. I was heartbroken because I loved this man. Like this, he was this hot Italian, dark skinned. He was a roofer, so he was dark all the time because he worked on roofs. And I was so head over heels for him. He broke my heart. And I literally spent months chasing him around. I even, don't tell anyone because this is a crime, put my initials on the stop signs on the road to his house. So he would see my initials every time he passed by. Yes, I know I should not have, but I did. So hopefully all those years ago, no one's going to come back at me now since those signs have since been replaced. But I literally did that. I chased him down big time. It wasn't super appealing to him. However, I dated a few other people along the way, and so did he. And in October of 86, he came back around. And my mom was a beautician and she cut his hair. So they were having a chit chat. It was during the World Series time. And I was a big Boston Red Sox fan. And so was he. I think he became a Red Sox fan because, like, I was too, right? That's what I told myself. But my family had always been Red Sox fans. And so the Red Sox were in the series that year. So he decided he was going to watch the series with my mom of all things. And I didn't stick around for it. But as it turned out, he ended up sending me yellow roses for my birthday that year. And he only signed the card David. And I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt who they were from. Because I actually had dated other guys named David, but they went by the name Dave. And so my David never went by the name Dave. It was always David. And so I knew when those roses came that morning for me exactly who they were from. And my heart was, as you can imagine, it was swooning all over again. So we reunited in October of 1986. And our love story continued on. It had that little gap in between, but it continued on. we ended up living together before I even graduated high school. So it would have been 1987, I believe January-ish, something of that nature, of 1987, when we actually moved into that apartment above my grandparents' house that I mentioned in my last episode. So we were already living there, and it wasn't until 88 that I ended up getting pregnant. And if you listen to episode 1, you know the story there. And it was kind of crazy. And it's actually a miracle that we even met, because my school journey is a little bit crazy. My parents divorced when I was 2 years old, and I had one brother. So my brother and I lived with my mom. My dad was in Vietnam, and he got remarried when I was 5. And shortly after that, he moved to Florida. I changed schools 18 different times from the time I started kindergarten at, I'm guessing, 5 years old, until I graduated high school in 1987. Can you let that sink in for just a minute? Changing schools 18 different times. I never went to a school for a solid year, only one school, until I was in the 6th grade. That 6th grade year, I lived in Florida with my dad and my stepmom. I started in the fall with 6th grade, and I ended right before summer of my 6th grade. One solid year at the same school. In 7th grade, I went to 3 different schools. Changing schools 3 different times, especially at such a vulnerable age as 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, I went to one school, 8th and 9th grade. 10th grade, I went to a different school, but I was there the whole year. My junior and senior year, I changed schools again, but my last 2 years, I was at the same school both years. And that is where I met my husband. Now, he was already graduated. He was a couple years older than me. And this is the story that he tells. I was in my mom's black Monte Carlo going through Clancy's Car Wash. All of my friends from Indiana, you know exactly Clancy's Car Wash on Tillotson, at least the old one that used to be there, right? He saw my girlfriend and I going through the car wash. And then that night, well, first of all, he said later, he's like, I saw this hot chick in a black Monte Carlo at the car wash. And then that night, we went to the high school football game, where again, he swears he spotted me there too, but we still didn't meet until a little bit later on. It's such a fun story to tell, but there's been pain and heartache along the way. Changing schools 18 times, it is a wonder that I graduated at all. It almost brings me to tears to think about. One of the words that I have clung to in my business for the last 5 or 6 years is perseverance. And I can look back now and see it was a word that was implanted on my heart from the Lord so long ago, and I didn't even realize it. Persevering. No matter what those 18 different changes look like, I was still showing up, trying to do my best with a smile and enduring. And I'm so thankful that I ended up changing schools again that last time, my junior and senior year, so that I could meet my husband. He had gone to the same school, but like I said, he had already graduated. And so the Lord has a way of bringing things into our lives crossing our paths with people, we don't know what the reason is sometimes. But I know that He always has a plan. He always has a purpose. And He always knows what's best for us. So we started that journey of living together in 1987. We had a baby, all in the midst of hearing, how is this ever going to work? You might make it for a few years, but will you make it the long haul? Like I said, my parents had gotten divorced when I was 2, so that's what I knew. My husband's parents were married until they passed. I don't know how many years that was, a lot. But I also know that my grandparents were married over 70 years before they passed. I don't know the exact years, but what a blessing and an exciting thing to hold on to for me to think about that. I remember specifically being at their 50th wedding anniversary with the beautiful white cake. It was like a wedding cake, and it had this gold topper on it. It was so lovely. And I remember thinking, would I ever be married that long to the same man? As of right now, we've been married for 37 years. Well, I take that back. In August of this year, which is just a few months away, we will have been married for 37 years. And I'm holding tight that I'm going to make it to that 50-year mark and beyond. But as we got married and we had that first baby, and it was hard to make the ends meet. I mean, you can imagine. Neither of us had a college degree. We worked a lot of jobs. My husband was in roofing and construction. And at one point, he even took a factory job because in Indiana, factories there's a lot of them, right? It's the industry there. I worked at Waffle House. I worked at a toy store. I worked in the mall. It was called the Checkered Flag. Again, my Indiana friends will know it well. I love that job. But we also did things like clean beauty shops on the weekends. If you've ever cleaned a beauty shop, it is not fun. Lots of chemicals and lots of hair. But we had to make our ends meet, right? We had a baby on the way, and then we had a baby. Okay? I ironed clothes. 10 cents a garment. Can you even imagine? Most people would throw a dime on the ground and not even pick it up these days. But back then, that 10 cents a garment, it added up. It certainly did. I cleaned houses for my friends, for my family. Whatever we had to do, we did it to make our ends meet. Because before long, guess what? Baby 2 was on the way. The expression of fertile Myrtle, totally somebody came up with that when they saw me. Because even while on birth control, I got pregnant again. Until next time, friends, we'll keep the story going. That's it for today, friends. Thanks for tuning in with me today. I hope today's episode stirred your soul, sparked your faith, and reminded you that your story is far from over. Keep walking in freedom. Keep showing up bold, and never forget, God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. Be sure to leave a review, subscribe, or share this podcast with a friend who needs to hear it as well. Until next time, keep letting her out to play because the world needs your fire.